Have you ever found yourself in a position as a restaurant owner where you're being pulled in so many different directions that you feel like you don't have control and choice over where you spend your time and your energy and how to get in your flow state? Today, I'm doing a coaching session with Brandon Sharp, who's the owner of 3 restaurants in Chapel Hill, Hawthorne and Wood, Bluebird, and Proximo. And we spend a significant amount of time diving into Brandon's concern about how to stay present in the moment with his team, with his own leadership, and at home when things are so chaotic and he's being pulled in so many different directions. We talk about his need and desire and pressure to know exactly what questions to ask his staff and to make sure that he has the right answers to the big important questions that are moving the business forward. We also take a deep look into what his current structure looks like and what's potentially missing in that structure in order to move the organization forward. And in the end, he comes to a really powerful realization of something that he needs to let go of in order to move himself forward and stay in his happy place and continue to develop his team and retain his long-tenured managers. Hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Restaurant Leadership Podcast, where we coach independent, multi-unit restaurant operators to build systems that drive profitability and reclaim time so they can scale with confidence and spend their time and energy where they want to, not where they have to. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin, restaurant coach and author of Multi-Unit Mastery. If you are an independent restaurant owner managing multiple locations, you know the chaos that comes with growth. Inconsistent execution across your restaurants, managers who won't take ownership, constantly answering questions your team should already know the answers to. You're stuck in your current role when you want to be playing a bigger strategic role as you scale. You don't have the right leaders in place or you keep losing them. And you're not sure how to find great people and actually keep them around. We work with passionate independent restaurant owners who found success with their first few locations and are ready to scale strategically. Our clients aren't looking to just survive expansion. They want to thrive through it. They're committed to developing strong leaders and creating exceptional guest experiences. Through the independent restaurant framework that we teach in Multi-Unit Mastery, we coach independent restaurant groups to move from chaos to confidence by focusing on 3 pillars: people, process, and profit. You can grab a gifted copy of the book at irfbook.com. On this show, we bring you real coaching conversations, leadership strategies, and the frameworks that you need to lead like a CEO instead of operating like a worn-out manager. And here's the thing, coaching has changed our clients' businesses and can change yours too. If you've never experienced what it's like to have someone in your corner who actually gets the restaurant world, we'd love to connect. We offer one-on-one and group coaching. Head to kristenmarvin.com/contact for a complimentary coaching session, and let's talk about what's possible for your restaurant group. Brandon, how can I make this an extraordinary conversation for you today?
If I can leave it with both good questions to ask myself and also some answers, like I don't expect to come away with it with answers, because I think that this is going to be a month-long and years-long and hopefully career-long, project for me of figuring things out, my career, my opportunities, this company evolving. But I want to know, what are the right questions to be asking myself along the way? Because the things that swirl inside my head day to day, should I have a routine? Should I not have a routine? How available should I make myself? Like all these little things really, I think, slow me down and keep me from being present with the person that's in front of me, with the guest or the cooks or whatever that's in front of me at the moment.
So it sounds like you're asking yourself a lot of questions, but you're not quite sure if they're the right ones or not.
Yes, I don't know if I'm asking the right questions. I don't know if I'm asking that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions, and I'm aware of the fact that if I stop making decisions, then I hold up everyone else's job. Like they depend on me for quick decisions. And most of the time they're not, life-changing, earth-shattering, huge decisions, but they're little ones that need to be made. Should we cut off reservations at 1:59 or should we keep going? And, you know, they're asking me for different reasons. Sometimes, usually as the owner, you or I only get the questions and the issues that are really hard and no one else wants to deal with. Everyone in the organization is pretty well aware of what their category of decisions are, what they're allowed, whether they're allowed to hire and fire people or create specials or change the menu or, whatever it is on those levels. So it's a constantly ongoing process. And as our company has really, thankfully continued to evolve, continue to expand, and yeah, I'm always I always feel like I'm learning to fly while falling.
Sorry, my dog Chef is barking. I did close the door. What's important to you about being really present in the moment?
For me, looking inward, that's when things slow down and there's at least the chance for a flow state. And that I used to feel that relatively often when I was working on the line, and I'm really focused on just the equipment, the ingredients, using all five senses, which is my favorite thing about working in kitchens, and being part of a team. And you can just get into a flow state. And so now, selfishly, that's almost impossible. Skipping from one restaurant to another, one meeting to another. But that's all personal. Externally, what's important about being present is that it shows the other person the respect that they have my undivided attention, and that I'm only and I know that we will both get the best out of whatever situation, whether it's an interview or a meeting about a new project or just a one-on-one, if they have my full attention. So, ringer turned off, hopefully phone is out of the room. I'm just there with my notebook and a pen, listening to them, asking them questions. And I really try, I start with the coaching technique in these one-on-ones of what's on your mind. And then I just, what else, until, they don't realize that it is eventually making them a little uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable that they're squirming, or that they're really being put on the spot, but they're just really telling me things that they may not have come into the conversation wanting to tell me, but that we need to talk about because, they are my general manager or they are my executive chef at this restaurant. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think it's important to be present. Those two phases.
What's the impact of that?
You're doing something to me right now, and I'm not sure what it is, but I know something's being done to me.
I'm just asking.
What is the impact of that? Good question. So the positive impact is this is kind of a negative way to put it. The positive impact is really just the tip of the iceberg that we continue to have good, open, honest communication, so that when there is an issue, it's not me yelling. It's not me yelling and screaming WTF, and it doesn't feel like me yelling and screaming WTF. We both have a solid frame of reference with how to communicate with one another. So that's the positive part of it. The negative part of not having those interactions is that, lack of communication leads to, fear and distrust and dislike, and then, hatred eventually, but yeah, and resentment. So resentment builds when communication with my managers breaks down. Mm-hmm. And it is always my fault.
All right, everybody, listen up. I've got big news. My new book, Multi-Unit Mastery, officially launched today, and I'm doing something I've never done before. If you visit irfbook.com within the next 24 hours of hearing this message, you're getting the entire book absolutely free. Not a discount, not a trial, completely free. This book contains the exact independent restaurant framework that's helped countless restaurant owners go from chaos to control, from surviving to thriving. But here's the deal. This 24-hour window closes fast, and after that, you'll be paying full price just like everyone else. Don't be the person who kicks themselves tomorrow for not taking action today. Go to irfbook.com right now, grab your free copy, and get ready to transform how you think about scaling your restaurant business. The clock is ticking. Do you feel like when you are really present with your managers, you are in a position where you are able to know exactly what questions to ask, and you're asking the right questions, and you're getting the answers that you want or that you need to move the business forward?
Yes, but I don't necessarily think it's from asking the right questions, because a lot of the tactical questions, procedural or personnel questions, will usually be asked via email after reading a shift recap or something like that. The ones that I get the most out of are the open-ended ones of what's on your mind, what else, and what else, and because that's when things get uncovered that they may not even know that are bothering them, but that we can tease out, and that's when it really comes. I think that's when the coachable moments really come, because a lot of times they 99% of the time, the managers and chefs will do the right thing. They know the right thing to do, and they would do it if I was there or not. Asking me maybe a security blanket, a safety net, a formality, something like that. But I heard this the other day, and it sounds kind of negative, but if I were to ask them, okay, pretend I'm not here, what would you do then? And they would do the same thing. They would do the right thing that I would end up recommending to them anyway. So I'm trying to get better about not needing to seem smart or look smart or sound smart to them by proving that I know the answer or affirming that I know the answer, but trying a gentler way than that of turning it around to them and really giving them the initiative and the opportunity to do it themselves. It's very hard when so for instance, last weekend Clemson was coming to town to play UNC. Restaurants were packed, or booked out days in advance, and the reservation line here at Bluebird was hovering around 150, and we know we're going to get another 50 walk-ins, and 200 is when we really start to get the speed wobble here and things start to break down. And so the general manager asked me via email and copied the chef and the director of operations, should we shut off reservations? I said, well, one, why don't you two decide what you're capable of, look at your schedule, look at your personnel, look at the pattern that the reservations are going to come in on, and you guys decide. I trust you to do what is best for your crew and for the business. Or two, set the line at 150. When it goes above that, toggle reservations off on Resi. When it goes below that, toggle them back on, let the reservationist know. So, and it was kind of, felt bad about sending it because I gave them the opportunity to do it yourself, but then I also kind of gave them the answer, and I didn't know which was the right one to do, so I did both. So I kind of copped out on that one,
Yeah. What are you noticing when you're saying that?
Um, that I'm still stuck. I'm still stuck between being able to drift above the business and just work on the business, and being in the business and still, wanting and needing to pull some strings.
Yeah. What's that perspective look like for you right now, being in the business and being stuck? What's that feel like for you?
Makes me a little resentful at times, but it's a very short leap for me to realize that it's all my own. Nobody made me do this. Nobody's not only is no one holding a gun to my head, like, people helped me get this opportunity, and I read the other day that you should be grateful for the ability to work hard at the things that you've always dreamed of doing, which is exactly what I get to do, every day. But this morning, like I was here early working on everything pretzel roll that I want to do for a smoked salmon special here at Bluebird for brunch this weekend. And so that gave me immense satisfaction. And not only is baking the most satisfying type of cooking to do in a lot of ways, I just being in an empty kitchen, getting to touch and feel and taste the food is something that I miss dearly. But that's what I am pretty sure I need to get myself out of doing, so that others can do that, and so again, so that I can work on the business instead of in the business. So the question was, how does it feel to be in the business? But yeah, a little resentment, but that resentment doesn't have a face. I just want to like stupid, stupid, stupid. Like that's how it makes me feel.
Yeah. I mean, your energy completely shifted when you were talking about being back in the kitchen and being in that flow state of, and I saw you and your energy be able to slow down and just really be present then of getting back to what you truly love and why you started in this industry of being able to create and yes, do a little bit on your own, but just create that space for yourself to be able to grow and innovate and create and do something different.
Yeah.
I wonder, there's freedom of choice in that moment, right? You're not being pulled into something that you have to do, or you're not being distracted by questions or having to seek the right answer. You're just in your happy place. You're in your flow state. You're being able to do what you want to do in that space that you've created. What's the impact of that?
Well, when I talk to my kids, so I've got three kids, 17, 15, and 12. And so when they're old enough to understand pretty intricate and involved concepts. And so when most people, not this, I won't even start there. To say that I want my kids to be happy when they grow up is, that one doesn't compute. Of course, I want them to be happy when they grow up. I think for a lot of people who are in our circumstances of, Western culture in the USA in the 21st century, like for a lot of us, we're lucky enough that happiness can be a choice, at least a certain switch that you can turn on and off. But what I tell them is, I don't want you to work hard in high school so that you can get into a good college, so that you can have X job. I want you to work hard in high school because you will get the most out of it, you will learn the most, and you will end up with the most choices. And like that is, to me, is when I'm unhappy, is when I have no choice. I'm left with no choices, or there's an obligation to something that I don't want to do. And so that's what I don't want for them. And so as you and I talk right now, I'm thinking or realizing that maybe the tipping point for me is whether something is a choice or an obligation, and that is a minute to minute, day to day, meeting to meeting. Maybe that is what's going on with me in a lot of ways, and maybe I'm projecting that onto what I want for them. Maybe they could care less whether they have any choices or not going forward. But maybe they all three want to go into the military, where choice is taken away from them, and they just have to do what they're told. And some people prefer that. But yeah, maybe that's what it is for me. Is that when choice is when choice is absent is when I revolt, especially when it comes to being in the midst of a business architecture that I have set up.
Yeah. Is freedom an important value to you?
$100%, but I don't think of it as I don't think of that in it's hard to find a place for the word freedom within the business world or within the company or within, the restaurant itself. Like I think that most creative people who are in the restaurant industry do best if they have some structure. I know that I will write a better menu if you say, okay, you're going to come over and cook for 10 people at my house. I would like 7 courses in the style of Southwest France, rather than, hey, I want you to come over and cook for a dinner party. Here's a blank piece of paper. Do whatever you want. And so, and maybe there's maybe there's an analog there to the way that we think of the organizational pyramid at our restaurants is inverted. So I see myself at the bottom, and then if I can keep the lights on, pay the bills, make sure paychecks don't bounce, hire the right managers, sign good leases, put together strong companies, find good investors, then I have done my part to support the general managers and executive chefs. And then if I can hold them accountable, and it goes up like that. And so therefore, if someone has all the right resources to be held accountable for their position, and there is a opportunity for new ideas, creative input, and those sorts of things within their job framework, that's where I think freedom is a great thing. And I also think that freedom in a lot of these positions is earned through, showing that you know the rules and can live by them and teach them to others, model them for others, before you are going to improve on them or bend them or go above and beyond them.
Mm-hmm. What's missing in the structure that you've built today?
I don't know because I've tried, and I wish I knew. And I've tried an executive assistant, and that became more of a that just became more of a they just like added a task to my day because all of a sudden there was an 8:05 call that I had to take every day, whether I needed to or wanted to or not. Um, tried Man, what is missing in the structure that we built? There have been some good value adds, fractional bookkeeping, fractional AP. Those things have been very helpful, and those have helped me to outsource the really just rote administrative tasks
Mm-hmm.
that had to be done and have to be done. And now, um, now they're done by somebody who does them better than me and more thoroughly, and dovetails easily with our accountants during tax season. What is missing? What is missing? I I think sometimes I feel like a big fish in a small pond, and that I think that what is missing is my lack of um, what's missing is that I don't know what I don't know, and I'm constantly finding out, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so there are corners I wish that I could see around. No one in the operation has anywhere near the amount of experience that I do, um, which allows me to lead them, allows them to trust me. But it also means that I make mistakes, and sometimes glaring ones, and it happens in front of everybody. And it doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen in a way that threatens anyone's career or the business or anything like that. But yeah, I think sometimes I wish I was a little bit more complete, but I don't know how I would have. I think that's what I'm in the process of doing now. And so
Yeah.
now I'm much more complete as a leader, owner, manager, chef than I was 6 years ago when we started Hawthorne and Wood. I mean, I can't believe all the stuff that I didn't know then. But as we try to expand the business, and this week I'm going to be taking a crash course in, setting up a restaurant real estate deal, because I've never done that before, and hopefully that's on the horizon for us. So, it's those sort of things. I'm transparent with our staff. I'm transparent with our managers. I'm transparent with our investors. But this will be me talking to investors, whose fortunes some of my are are kind of incredible, and me trying to talk to them in a knowledgeable manner about real estate deals that I'm sure some of them have done hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So, there are things like that are, still a struggle for me to figure out along the way. So maybe that's what's missing. It's just more experience for me. But I don't think that we're missing. I never want to be top heavy with salaries. I want to surround myself with experts, but I don't want this heavy safety net of, there's no reason for us to have a freaking CFO and an HR manager and there's just like that. I don't know. Well, first of all, it's restaurants with thin margins. We need to run lean.
Yeah.
And second of all, I feel like some of that would hinder me rather than help.
Yeah. What would your business look like if you infused a little bit more vulnerability into your leadership?
Ooh, more vulnerability? Don't know. I try to be good, and I think I am good about admitting when I'm wrong and admitting it in front of everyone. A little bit more vulnerability would probably help others be more forthcoming, frank, honest, and admitting of their own mistakes. When we're in the moment, when we're in service, when we're going at full tilt boogie in the kitchen, I can still be pretty direct with people. But when the moment has passed, when I'm reading shift reports and recaps and guest feedbacks early in the morning, I am much better now, and I think I still continue to improve at giving our team the benefit of the doubt, because they are an elite group, especially they are elite groups of restaurant workers. Asking them for their side of the story, asking them if this is the way that they remember this interaction with the guest going, asking them what they think that we should do.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing evolution for me, but I'm wary. I'm much less. I was much more wary of always needing to seem like the authority and the expert. Whether it was guest relations or cooking or HR or marketing or whatever it was. Now I'm much more comfortable. Hey, so I asked our manager at Proximo, this is not a decision that gets made at his level, but I asked him his input before I asked the other two directors, do you think we should do a pre-theater dinner every night at Proximo as opposed to only nights when there are plays at the Carolina Theater for the Performing Arts? I want to get his input on it from the ground level. And so yeah, it's I think that there's a great deal of me when I think back on it in my days as sous chef, chef de cuisine, and in those roles when things were handed down to me by someone who was no longer boots on the ground, but was an expert. And whereas I knew a slightly better way. And then when I went to work at Solage, the general manager there, Richard Hill, was a very strong leader, but he also treated each director around the table of those executive meetings as if they were running their own business. Director of HR, director of spa, maintenance, F&B, rooms. and everything. And so it was challenging, but he knew that he was an expert in spa. He was an expert in guest services, but he was not an expert in engineering or in F&B. And so he would, ask really, really good questions so that he could pull the expertise and the opinions out of us and try to get us to come to these conclusions on our own. And what he found that did, and now what I find that does, is that encourages the manager who has contributed those thoughts and helped make that decision to have more ownership of it, and therefore they are much more likely to put it into practice and hold that as a new standard. Just like, when a sous chef puts his own dish on the menu as opposed to one of mine, he is locked down making sure that dish is perfect every time it goes out.
Yeah. Hey there, podcast friends. I hope you're enjoying these impactful conversations and leadership insights I'm bringing you each week. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a moment and reach out and ask a small favor that would go a long way in supporting the show. If you've been loving the content I'm providing, please take a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Not only does it make my day, but it also plays a pivotal role in helping the show grow. Your reviews boost my visibility, attract new listeners, and encourage exciting guests to join me on the mic. So if you want to be part of my show's growth journey, hit that review button and let me know what you think. Thanks a million for being awesome listeners. When we started this conversation, you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself to make sure you could find the great questions. You always knew the great questions to ask in certain scenarios and find the answers. And I wonder how that pressure that you're putting on yourself is also showing up with your leadership team.
Yeah, I don't have much of a poker face. And like last night at Proximo, I was working service, but I just gotten a couple of phone calls during the afternoon. One was a very positive opportunity. One was very negative equipment situation that was going to be expensive and pressing for time, and just dealing with those. And then at Proximo, I have 6 guests sitting 3 feet from me, literally, wanting, a couple glasses of wine, have a couple glasses of Rioja. They want to talk to the chef. I'm like, I don't. I just want to shut down and cook and be done and go deal with this other stuff. And so, being present is not always the easiest thing for me. And so then, when I don't have much of a poker face and the workers see me exasperated, I'm aware of it, and it lets the and it's not an affectation. Like I can't control it. I just don't, like, I get upset, I get frustrated. I don't take it out on them. I don't call them names. I don't do any of that stuff. But it might have my head in my hands or something like that. And I I think that is probably a little demoralizing for them. At least they know that I'm human. One time at Solage, I walked by one of the sales managers, and I was laughing about something, and she said, "Don't smile; you'll ruin your reputation." So I think that I look really serious a lot of time at work, and that's not me being angry or even being stern. That's just me focusing, and sometimes on something that's far away, because I struggle to be present. But
Yeah.
I'm a pretty. I was going to say I'm a pretty open book. I'm not sure that's the case, but I don't think I'm difficult for the staff to read.
Okay. One thing that I learned very early on when I was taking my coaching courses was something that was really empowering. When I was in my program, I wanted to know what question I needed to ask during every coaching session. Wanted to make sure it was the right question, wanted to make sure it landed 100% of the time, and that I knew exactly where the coaching session was going to go. And I quickly realized, just like service, every single night, you know when the door's open, you know when the door is closed, but you have no idea how that shift is going to go. 100%, right? You can put all the structures and the systems in place and the great team and all that, but you've still got all these guests coming in every single night and a different team every single night. But what I learned in my coaching courses is that if 50% of the questions that I ask clients land, that's great. And it's okay for me to say in moments, I don't know what question to ask right now. What's coming up for you when I say that?
I think that the key for me of these open communications with my managers is having the scheduled meeting, because even when it's something good or just a question, even when it's good feedback that I want to give them, or an earnest question that I want to ask them in person, and not via email, and I ask them for a meeting, like immediately, like the defenses go up. And so that is, because sometimes, it sucked. Like I've had to release 4 general managers in the past 4 years. And those are ones where you just have to go, hey, let's go sit down. I need to speak to you. Yeah, but I am not a talkative person, and so I'm not the one initiating a lot of conversations. It takes effort for me to do the things that I think really, or not really, do the things that I think really help. I said it anyway. Grease the skids of relationships with, especially my managers. And this is usually sous chefs that I see in the morning. Instead of coming in, and going, standing up at the bar, opening up my laptop and starting right in on the day's work, of stopping, talking to the sous chef, put away some produce with him, have a cup of coffee, and just catch up. And I guess I wish I knew, like, there was some sort of like video game display when it was like, how many points is that worth?
Yeah.
Because I think but I'm thinking back and I'm like, when I worked at French Laundry, nobody ever, the owner didn't come and do that. When I worked at restaurant Gary Danko, the owner didn't come and do that.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked at restaurant August, sometimes, the executive chef there, an owner, would come in and bullshit with me and do that. And that was, somebody I had a great relationship with and still do to this day. And so, there's something, even though it's my natural mentality to not do that and discount that. That's something that, it's not unpleasant, but I see it as inconvenient, where I should see it as probably an essential job function, and it probably has as much or more, or maybe less, but it probably has, a similar effect as the one-on-ones do, of keeping the lines of communication open, and even more than that, detracting from any sort of fear, resentment, disaffection, anything like that the person may have. Because if I blaze right by with a curt good morning, and I'm describing myself doing something that I unfortunately do pretty often, with a curt good morning, go straight to the bar top, open up my laptop, and go straight to work, he may just feel like a factotum, and just another worker bee.
Yeah.
But it's tough for me to slow down and do that. Among other things, on the 8-minute drive to work, I've already got a list going in my head of stuff that I'm behind on that I need to get in there and frickin' bang out. So yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what kind of delegation would come out of those one-on-ones and what kind of empowerment would come out of those one-on-ones.
Yeah, I do too. Most of them are with pretty long-standing employees, and the person I'm thinking of right now, has an expert at the position above his who probably isn't going anywhere. So there's no real chance for upward mobility. Just got a big raise, has a 55-hour work week and a full load of work. So I think probably strengthening that relationships, emotional ties is probably the best thing. And then from that would probably evolve of his own ideation and volition, some ideas for delegation, because that's what at the level of a lot of my managers who have, so I can think of several who have been with us 3, 4, and 5 years. I'm at the point now of needing them to realize that they've gotten more efficient, doing the same job, doing the same duties relatively for 3, 4, or 5 years. I need them to step forward, start to hold themselves to a higher standard and say, hey, I can take on more. What can I take off your plate? And I heard this, man, who did I hear this from the other day? Oh, Scott Galloway. He's doing one of his advice podcasts, and somebody called in and said, I'm just starting my entry level position out of college or whatever. And he said, if you want to move ahead, go to your boss, find out his least favorite task, and ask how you can do that for him.
Yeah.
Make yourself indispensable to him in that way. And I thought that was such a fantastic, fantastic take. I would freaking love it if somebody did that for me.
Okay. Love it. What are you taking away from this conversation today?
I need to figure out how to make some of these self-realizations stick, and not just be like when I get up and meditate in the morning, 10 minutes, and once every 3 weeks. It's a fantastic session where I'm fully present, not thinking about the day, not thinking about what I'm going to make the kids for breakfast, and truly present, right? And reach another state. And then it ends, wake up the kids, feed the dogs, feed the kids, let's get out the door for school. So what can I take from this conversation that is going to last, that's going to stick with me? I think it's twofold, because what I realized last night was that I cannot commit myself to this. I mean, it was only, it wasn't even a full kitchen work day. It was 8 hours in the kitchen. My day had started 5 hours before my work day had started 5 hours before that, but it was 8 hours in the kitchen that I could not walk away from that station. I was fully responsible for that kitchen, from prep to staff meal to service to shutdown and, orders and everything. And I just don't have, I can do that. Or I can run the businesses and maintain relationships with the other professionals in this organization and treat them as they deserve to be treated. I cannot do both. And that's what had me pulling out my hair last night. And right before service, I almost turned to the manager. I was like, look, I cannot make any more decisions today. You have to, and you have to stop asking me questions. I don't want to talk to any guests. I don't want to hear anything, which is the absolute worst thing for me to do, as the owner and the leader. But that's the point that I was at, having been spread so thin. So I think what I would like to do and I thought about this late last night after I got home and was decompressing, was probably have a summit with all of my executives, explain to them what I'm planning to do going forward for the business, the reasons that I cannot cover these shifts anymore. And now, after this conversation, I can reasonably and comprehensively explain to them why it is in their best interests that I not do those shifts anymore. And that, on a personal level, I can slow down and stop and have a coffee and put away some produce, talk to them about this, and come work on a special. Yeah.
Is it uncomfortable?
No, it feels great.
Okay, good. You talked about earlier keeping your long-tenured managers engaged and managing their workload, their productivity, but helping them understand what they can start to delegate and letting go of some things. And what you're talking about is modeling that behavior for them. And there's a lot of vulnerability in that, and saying, I got to let go of this. And here's what this looks like going forward. And here's what I need from you all, because this is what I need for me. Yeah. That's great. Great job, Brandon. Thank you for your time.
Cool.
I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that immensely. Thanks.
Good.
I never talk that much. I never talk about myself that much. So that was delightful.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you for your time. Really, thank you for diving into this so deeply and coming on the show. Really appreciate you helping me introduce this concept of coaching to the hospitality industry. So your restaurants looks absolutely gorgeous and stunning, and I can't wait to get out there to North Carolina and check it out. So that is going to do it for us this week, everybody. Please share this episode with anyone in the industry that you know who could benefit, and we'll talk to you next week.